Hi. How are you?
Hey, hello.
So far, it's just the two. Oh, there's Miriam.
Very,
Hi. How are you all?
I'm good.
Oh, good.
The editor is with us.
Yes.
Harry's an editor too. He's a curator, he calls himself.
Oh.
Oh, getting some more people.
Yes. Oh, there's Gary and Michelle. Are you all staying cool?
Shuli Buli. Shuli Buli is Turkish for so-so.
Oh, yes. I just found an article. I'll be sending it out. Is how to deal with your mask outside when it's hot.
That's good.
Besides taking it off. There's Sophia. Kathy is on.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I just walked over to Augustana, so I'm just getting set up here. There's all kinds of activity here.
At Augustana?
Yeah, they're starting, well, they're starting services this weekend.
Oh, really? And building services.
Patrick, they're cleaning and doing all kinds of setup.
Boy, I tell you, this article, I think it was in the Washington Post. Some church, I think it was in Virginia. X number of people have gotten coronavirus, and several have actually died just from going to church.
Wow.
Wow.
That's because old people go to church.
I think the singing is a problem.
Yeah.
Being close together for
Yes.
a period of time.
My understanding as a member of the congregation is that we're talking about 3 kinds of services. All the services will be made smaller. There will be no singing, although there's going to be some instruments played. That one option is going to be a weekday morning service for people over 65 or people who feel they have conditions that make them susceptible, and that'll be limited to 10. Another type of service they're going to have will be Sunday mornings, and that will be plenty of social distance. Again, sort of a short service, and it'll be limited to about 25. And finally, there was, I don't know if this is going to go through, but there was also some talk, or pastor proposed that there be some meditative services during the week, which I think will not really have too much going on up front. I'm not positive, but that is the current status of things.
Well, my church is continuing their Zoom online service, streaming the service.
Mine's doing the same thing, at least until September.
Well, I mean, even after they go back into the building, they want to be able, those who don't want to come could still
Yes.
dial in on a Sunday morning.
Mine's thinking of doing both, and also instead of being in the sanctuary, being in smaller spaces with 30 or 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. Life will be different.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. St. Paul
Well,
and the
I said,
Redeemer
life
is starting
is.
services on the 19th. They're letting, I think, 40 people go, and you have to sign up in advance. And there's an outdoor and an indoor service.
Oh, that's
Ah.
St. Paul. Oh, St. Paul and the Redeemer. Okay.
Yeah. And then they added a Sunday afternoon at 5. And I don't remember if that's indoors or outdoors. So. Whew.
Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, our speaker isn't here yet. I'm just watching my email to see if she's having a problem. Go ahead and get started with announcements, Terry.
Well, we just got news 20 minutes ago from the Illinois Holocaust Museum. We can extend our registration through Sunday.
Whoa, yay.
So we'll be putting out announcements for that. And so and I haven't changed the website yet to register, but I will do that after this meeting. And so your friends, whether they're here in Chicago or across the world, can join us. I told the story last night at the dinner salon that Dottie Jeffries has about 3 or 4 people from across the United States, siblings and relatives and friends who are all joining in. And there's one household that 3 of them will be joining us. So anyway, and we've had several people from some of the other villages also joining in on registration. So
my cousin from San Francisco just joined.
Oh, good.
China.
I didn't tell China about it, but that's a 13-hour time difference.
Yeah.
But I know she'd be interested.
I read on something today, some woman who worked from home and they were doing Zoom meetings, and she ended up getting fired because her children were making noise while she was on Zooming. So she's trying to sue and get her job back. But what I was going to say is the kids from China, we'll let them run around. If your daughter joins us. So any other announcements anyone else has?
You want to tell us how many we have so far signed up?
Well, there were 44 when I checked this morning.
Oh, wow. Good. Last time I saw it was 36.
You know, it's gone up.
Gosh.
That's for what?
What?
For which program?
For the Ruth Bader Ginsburg virtual tour.
Yeah, I'll have to say whether I can.
And then on the 22nd, our next drop-in, we'll have our first annual Hyde Park virtual garden tour. And Sarah Dassinger is our curator, and right now there's 9+ gardens who will be on display. So it'll be a fun event. And then Miriam is looking for people to submit poetry. Either you write it yourself or submit one of your favorite poems, and we'll have a poem fest sometime later on.
Well, and in the next newsletter, we'll have some poetry feature.
Yes.
As well, yeah. So I did just get an email from Dr. De Wit, our speaker. She will be joining momentarily.
And some of you may know Gloria Rollins. She, about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 10 days, fell and broke her right arm. She was in the hospital at U Chicago for 7 or 8 days and just got transferred yesterday to Montgomery Place for rehab and also home care planning for discharge. She joined us last night on the dining out. She looked great. And despite all the problems with the fracture, she seemed to be quite well conversed what was going on in terms of getting good care and what was happening, and enjoyed being with us. And for the first time, Astrid Fuller joined us last night.
Oh, good.
She borrowed her brother's phone so she could be part of the group.
That's
So
great.
that was all fun last night.
Very good. Well, we have Harriet here with us now. Welcome.
I am. Hi.
Hi. So we can go ahead and get started. This is Dr. Harriet De Wit, who I'm very grateful and happy to welcome her to the drop-in today on very short notice. We had a change of plans at the last minute. She is a professor at the University of Chicago in the Department of Psychiatry. She studies how drugs make people feel and behave compared to a placebo. She studied several different drugs such as alcohol, nicotine, stimulant drugs, and cannabis. Her research is funded by the National Institutes of Health, and she served on many national and international agencies related to addiction. Today, she's going to give a short introduction to CBD because it feels like it's everywhere all of a sudden, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. I invite you to put your questions in the chat, which you will see on the bottom of your screen. There's a little button that says chat. And if you click on that, you can type your question, and Dr. De Wit can that way answer as many questions as possible during the session. Welcome, Dr. De Wit.
That's great, Michelle. It's great to see you, and it's lovely to be here. And I should tell you also that Michelle worked in our lab as a research assistant maybe 2 decades ago.
Yeah. I was pregnant with Sarah.
Okay, so a very long time ago. And so we still miss her. She was a great addition to the lab. She knows exactly what we do. So I thought I would talk a little bit about cannabidiol. I'd talk a little bit about what it is, whether it's safe, what it's good for, what kind of doses people use, and then I'm happy to answer your questions. It's a drug that's around and available for use everywhere these days, and you can get it in drugstores and in health food stores and in smoke shops or whatever they're, cannabis stores, whatever they're called. And so the claims have been very widespread about what this might do. So what is it? It's a component of the cannabis plant, but you should be aware that there are hundreds of chemicals in the cannabis plant. And of those chemicals, the main one that's believed to produce any psychoactive or even medical effects is THC, delta-9 THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. You're probably all familiar with that. And really, most of the effects of cannabis can be related to THC. Now, there have been many claims that the presence or absence or the amount of CBD so cannabis, the plant, has all these different constituents, and one of those is cannabidiol. And there have been claims that the higher the cannabidiol you have in the cannabis plant, the less negative effects you have from the THC or from the cannabis. That has not been well supported in systematic laboratory studies. And this is something you're going to hear me say a number of times, that there have been many claims regarding cannabidiol that haven't withstood the tests of controlled scientific studies. So what is it good for? I'm going to talk about 3 categories for the uses of cannabidiol. One is the category where the drug has met all the criteria for the Food and Drug Administration to give it approval as for medical uses. And then the second category is where there's some suggestive evidence, but no controlled studies and no definitive evidence. And then the third category is a wide number of claims that have been made from individuals who use it for all kinds of things, and then just anecdotally, as they say, report that it makes them feel better. So the only indication or the only disease that has received approval for cannabidiol is a very severe form of childhood epilepsy. So this is a form of child epilepsy that where there's basically nonstop seizures, and it's a devastating disorder, and there are no good medications for it. And it just so happens I was on the Food and Drug Administration Advisory Committee when this was approved. So they approved doses of, it turns out that it's partially effective in reducing these seizures. It's not 100% effective, but this was such a bad disorder that anything that would have any benefit should be approved, and it was. And then the other important thing to say about this drug is that it has very few adverse effects. So whatever you take of it, it's unlikely to do any real harm. So that's a real plus. So its medical benefits are marginal and arguable, but it's safe. So from that point of view, it's fine to have it available to everybody. Now, with regard to partial evidence, there are a few studies that suggest that it decreases anxiety, like social anxiety. And so these are studies that they've been published, but then they haven't been replicated by other people. So of the things that people have shown some evidence are anxiety. There's also a study with people who are heroin users and that reduce their craving for heroin. There's some evidence for anti-schizophrenia kind of effect. So it reduces some of the positive symptoms of schizophrenia. And people who have MS report using it. It might have neuroprotective effects. So these are all sort of claims by patients. Now the problem is with just claims from patients is that they take the drug with strong expectations that it's going to have a good effect, or they get it from somebody. They go to the dispensary and it says, this is good for such and such, and it's going to make you feel better. And those expectations we know can powerfully influence people's responses to drugs. And this is especially true for psychoactive kinds of things. So for anxiety or depression or insomnia or kinds of things where your psychological state might contribute. So there's people take the drug with a strong expectation that it's going to have the effect, and then they experience the effect, and then they say, okay, so the drug works. But in order really to know whether the drug works, you'd have to give the drug under blinded conditions, so the person doesn't know what they're getting. So if you want to try it on yourself, get somebody to make a capsule or a bit of oil, like corn oil or something, or a capsule, and if you're doing CBD oil, and do it blinded. So do it a few times and let your spouse or your trusted other, if you're using the drug anyway, then do it under blinded conditions and see whether you still get the beneficial effects. So test it against a placebo. So those are things that you can do at home just to kind of out of your own curiosity. I looked on there's a register that's where people have to register any studies that they're doing with drugs. It's called clinicaltrials.gov. And I looked at cannabidiol on that registry, and there were 246 studies registered. So there are lots of people interested in doing studies on, and those studies are well controlled. So there are lots of people doing studies. So with a bit of time, we might be able to find out what things it's good for and what things it's not good for. And then you might also want to separate out what kinds of people it's good for. So it might be good for anxiety, but only in this kind of person and not in that kind of person. So then you start talking about what they call individual differences. So how people differ in their responses to a drug. So that's another thing. So I should just step back one step. I said it was safe, but that's assuming that your source is a reliable source. So as you probably know, a lot of the drugs, especially the drugs that are available in the dispensaries or anything that you get from, even some of the things that you get from health food stores, when they do the analysis on it, the drug often doesn't contain, the product doesn't contain what it says it contains. So the amounts of cannabidiol vary widely. So they can be from practically none to a lot. So when I say it's safe, it depends on your source. So it might have varying amounts of cannabidiol, and it might have other things in there as well. This is true for all the drugs that people use, kind of street drugs that are from FDA approved sources that you don't know what else is in there. So from that point of view, you need to be a little bit careful about drugs that you get from these sources. Then you can ask, what about doses? And because the drug hasn't been studied very well, we don't really know very much at all about the doses. And so sometimes people say, you know, you need just 10 milligrams or 15 milligrams or 20 milligrams, and other people say you need 300 milligrams. It turns out we did a study in our lab where, I don't know whether Michelle was there at that time, I think it was after she left, where we got healthy volunteers and we administered, they participated in 4 sessions. They got placebo on one of the sessions, and then on one session they got 300 milligrams cannabidiol. On another session they got 600 milligrams cannabidiol. On another session they got 900 milligrams. So we did this in about 30 people, and we wanted to know whether these relatively high doses, so 900 milligrams is a pretty high dose, whether it would have any effects on their behavior at all. It did nothing. It didn't change their heart rate, their blood pressure. They didn't report feeling a drug. They reported nothing. So that was a very controlled drug study, and we got the drug from a very reliable source. So that sort of made me a little bit into a skeptic. I mean, if this is a psychoactive drug, if this is a drug that changes things in the brain, then even in healthy volunteers, you'd think it would do something. It would make them feel a little sleepy or a little nauseous or it did nothing. So I'm a skeptic, I have to tell you. Okay, so then one other consideration about this drug is the way that it's absorbed into the body. So when you take a capsule and then take a drug by mouth, it has to get absorbed in the stomach or in the intestine, and then it has to get distributed around the body, and then it has to get to the brain or wherever you think it's acting. It turns out that the absorption of cannabidiol is variable. And so not very much of it is absorbed, and it varies between individuals. So for some people, it's not absorbed. So then you think you're taking a known dose, and you don't even know whether it's being absorbed or getting into the body at all. So that's another source of concern and of variability regarding the drug. So let's see, I've told you basically what it is, that it's a constituent. The other thing about it is it has no psychoactive effects. It does not act on the same receptors that THC or the active ingredient of cannabis does. So it does not make you high. It does not make you laugh or eat or do all the other things that cannabis makes. It has essentially no effects, and it doesn't act on the same brain system, on the endocannabinoid system in the brain. In fact, we don't know how it acts. So that's another kind of reason for skepticism. If it has any effects, we don't know how it acts. And there's a little bit of controversy about how it acts for those children with seizure disorders. So that's they're working on exactly what it does, but it's not an obvious mechanism that's familiar to all of us. So let's see, I've sort of covered the basics. Where is the best place to buy CBD tincture and balm? So these are good questions, and they're coming from Michelle. Good for you.
Well, those were sent to me in advance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. As far as buying the CBD tincture, again, the studies that have been done analyzing the products show that the contents vary widely. And so I don't know where to tell you would be the most reliable source. The more credible the source, the better. I would say, you know, maybe a large corporation like CVS or something that is going to be held accountable for what its products are, then I would be inclined to go to something like that. The other thing about doses, just to kind of step back, I was talking with a neurologist on faculty here, and he said many of his patients have MS, say they like to use cannabidiol and that it works. And so I asked him about doses, and he said, well, some people say they use 1 drop and other people say they use 12 drops. And I said, what's a drop? And he said, he has no idea. So people are dosing themselves in what they call drops, but we as pharmacologists, that doesn't mean anything. You know, you have to have like milligrams of the drug. So he had no idea. And so for us to even do a study, you have no idea where to begin with doses. So, okay. So where's the best place to buy it, CBD? I guess I would say whatever the most credible source is that you can think of, and the one that might be held accountable. So the smaller source might be less reliable, put it that way. What about quality control and safety? Again, the bigger companies are likely to be held accountable more than the smaller dealers. So again, I would go to a more, the bigger name place might be better off. What are the side effects or addiction using CBD tincture for waking up in the middle of the night and taking 10 drops? Okay, so there's somebody taking 10 drops. So side effects, minimal. Don't worry about the side effects. Addiction, no chance of addiction. There is zero chance of addiction with this drug. So you don't have to worry about that. And that has been done in systematic studies. They had to do that in preparation for the seizure disorder study for the Food and Drug Administration. They had to show that this drug is not addictive. Zero. So don't worry about that. A good friend recommended, she and her husband have a plot of land growing marijuana, recommended, gave me some, okay, so marijuana is very different. So the THC has all kinds of, the actual marijuana is just a different word for cannabis. Cannabis refers to the plant. Marijuana is actually the Spanish word for cannabis. And it was, the US government started using the word marijuana back in the 20s because it overlaid this kind of social, sort of negative social connotation that it was something that was used by Mexicans and by jazz musicians. So the current thinking is that the more proper term is really cannabis. That's the name of the plant, and that's how we refer to it. Marijuana was it's kind of a street name, and it was actually picked up by the government to make it sound less credible. Okay, she and her husband were growing it. Okay, so right. So it's very different if you're using CBD alone or if you're using together with THC, because the THC itself has lots of active properties. So that there's a big distinction there. So just be aware that when you buy CBD, and if you want only CBD, if you want the combination, that's fine. And lots of people use the combination and believe in it. Whether the CBD does anything to the THC, I'm a skeptic. Okay. Use it for the hand. Okay, my understanding is effectiveness for pain is dose dependent and higher doses are effective. However, that CBD can interfere with various, actually it can interfere with other medications. It changes the metabolism of some drugs. You know, some drugs you're not supposed to drink grapefruit juice with them because it changes the rate that they're metabolized. And so you should check with the drug that you're taking, and you can find this on the internet that CBD does interact with other drugs. So it will either increase or decrease the concentration of the other drug that you're taking, so that you do need to be a little bit careful about taking CBD in combination with other drugs. For the effect, whether the effect for pain is dose dependent, the question is whether it's effective for pain at all. And we have no real clear evidence for that. So on the other hand, if you believe it strongly, go for it. Take advantage. What about topical application? Same, no evidence. You know, if it's not absorbed well through the gut, chances are it's also not that well absorbed through the skin. But I've never seen the studies that are done. So some drugs, you could have to do the study. You'd have to put it on the skin, and then you have to measure plasma levels, blood levels at different times, see how much is absorbed, how fast it's cleared, and that kind of thing. I don't know about topical application. Okay, word of mouth. Someone recommended CBD Garage. So these are names of products: CBD Garage, Quicksilver, Colorado Hemp Oil. And so these are all different trade names, I guess, of products that people use. And again, I just can't recommend one product over another. You might be able to do the research that you need to do if you went onto the internet and looked up the studies that have done the chemical analysis and see which ones are the most reliable. But that's a big job too. Okay, once you know about a placebo effect, doesn't work. Haha. Well, convince yourself it does work. There you go. It's true. It's true. Is weed THC effective for pain? Well, there is a little bit of evidence that THC has analgesic properties. So THC itself, so the active ingredient of cannabis, might have some analgesic or pain reducing effect. So that's not related to the CBD, then that's related more to the THC. All right, well, I am happy to hear your experiences if you want to talk a little bit about if you've been experimenting with it yourselves and you want to tell us. Oh, here, now with legalization. Oh, well, you know what? You can buy it in the product in the question is, so now with legalization, can anyone buy such products in a medical marijuana store? Yes, you can, but since it's not approved by the Food and Drug Administration, it doesn't go through rigorous testing, and it's not approved by the federal government. So when I want to do a study on CBD, I have to go through an incredible rigmarole through the Drug Enforcement Agency because it's considered a Schedule I drug, which is the most constrained drug. So it's not available for us legally to do the research studies. So you can, it's one of these weird paradoxes. You can get the drug on the street or from the dispensary, but you can't get it through legitimate sources to do medical research, except in that one study I described to you where we got it from a drug company and they went through all that rigmarole. So, it's legalized, but it's not really very well monitored and controlled and regulated. So that's something you should be aware of. All right, who has questions from all that?
I just want to mention everyone's muted, but if you want to share or if you have another question, you can just unmute yourself to ask the question or share
I
comment.
have a question.
Yes.
Are recreational marijuana stores, are their products of quality?
They're regulated on a statewide basis, and the state has some control over what gets sold and how it gets labeled, and they do some checking, but that's not done at a federal level, and I can't guarantee that it's done in a rigorous way. But I don't know exactly what they do. I don't know exactly. I think they regulate the product that goes into the final product, but not what is in the bottle that you actually buy. So it's complicated.
This is Ken Gustafson. I have a question.
Yeah.
Has Illinois moved too fast on legalization without more research about safety, about such things as driving?
That's a good question. They have moved ahead. There's a lot of research going on and has gone on the effect. Now we're talking about the effects of cannabis, right? The effects of THC on driving. And there have been quite a few studies by now. It looks like it doesn't have anywhere near the impairing effects that alcohol does. Alcohol has a much greater effect on driving ability than cannabis does. The main thing they see on simulated driving tests, you know, where they do simulated driving and they measure, is that the drivers drive more slowly under the influence. So it's you know, you might say that's a good thing. I don't know. There is a little bit of an effect on reaction time and some effect on memory, but it turns out that driving ability is not that strongly affected unless, of course, the person is completely had taken a very, very high dose. But yes, I would say that the state has gone ahead with legalizing it without doing really thorough assessments on driving. But they've also approved alcohol. You know, they let us drive around with alcohol, and we tolerate that as a society.
You know, I'm a fan of the PDR. I like to be able to look up a medication
Yeah,
and, you know, see when I forget words now because I'm getting old, so, you know,
Yep.
now it's going out the window, but when it's effective, for how long and everything. This stuff but I'm in enormous searing pain right now because of needing hip replacement surgeries. But
it's
this
not in there.
What's not in? No, I know it's not in there. I can't stand this kind of anecdotal crap. No, I mean it. It's making me nuts. I got some from friends before, and okay, you have to do this, that, and you got to buy this. I'm not buying all the stuff. You know what I mean? I just want it I wanted it for anxiety. And it's just, and now the way you're saying, it's not, it depends on the source. There's a thing about absorption.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man,
Yeah.
this is too, I might as well just chew on, you know, I don't know what, rubber bands.
Yeah, right. I think if you're looking for pain control, there are more accepted methods for, you know, and not just whatever, Tylenol, aspirin, all those kinds of drugs. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm beyond those now, though.
Okay, yeah.
So, thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, this is Ina Grace. What about, I'm not that interested in the recreational, but I've heard that for people doing cancer treatments, chemotherapy, that marijuana was helpful. Is that true, or is that just an urban myth as well?
It's not an urban myth. There you're talking about the whole plant, cannabis, and the active ingredient is the THC, and THC itself is approved. It's approved, it's available as a medicine. It's called Marinol or Dronabinol, and it's available for medicine, as a medicine, and it has effects to reduce nausea. So it reduces nausea. It reduces glaucoma pain, so pain for people who have glaucoma. It might have appetite enhancing effects. So the THC itself, the pure product of THC, does have therapeutic uses, and the drug is available as a medicine. So, and you will find that, who asked that question, in the PDR, you will find THC, and that's the active ingredient of the cannabis plant, is in the PDR as Marinol or Dronabinol. So and it has a number of approved uses. So actually I originally came from Canada, and there they were using THC, and they said they thought it was an ideal drug in cancer treatment because it has an antiemetic effect, so it reduces nausea, it reduces pain, and some people it reduces anxiety. This is all THC now, it's not the CBD, it's the THC, the active ingredient in the cannabis plant, in the marijuana plant. So that THC is very active and has all kinds of effects on mood and feelings, yeah.
Okay.
I was interested in, you mentioned that the mechanism of how CBD works isn't well understood.
Yeah.
But there's also so much research on it. Is it unusual for something to not be well understood, or is it typical?
I would say, yes, it's unusual. On the other hand, it's hard to characterize the effects that you're looking at. So if we don't see much of an effect, or we don't see effect in animals on locomotor behavior, on pain, so if it doesn't have much of an effect, then it's hard to know where to look for the mechanism of action. And the seizure disorder, that's a tough one because it's such a profound change. I don't know what mechanisms could affect that disease. It's such a huge disease.
Can you hear me? I was going to make a comment. This is
Sure.
Sophia Watson.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but I started talking. Sarah was talking. We were both talking at the same time.
Oh, well, now we can hear you. You have the floor.
All right. No, I just wanted to comment that I have arthritis in my right knee.
Yeah.
And I have from time to time used the cream that you can purchase at any drugstore.
Okay.
And maybe it's all in my mind, but it does seem to have some relief, give me some relief for it.
That's great. In that case, keep doing it. That's great.
Yeah, hi. Let me see if I can.
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Hi, this is Robin Kaufman. I've had some experience with it. Boy, I have a few comments. I know a lot of people who feel that the cream is helpful, and that's something where you can tell right away. The problem comes, as you say, since it's a trial and error thing, and you'd have to spend a whole lot of money to try different things. There is a woman who specializes in selling CBD, and before the COVID epidemic, she would sometimes have events where you could try different things. I wonder if those people in this group who are interested in trying things could each buy a different product, not contaminate it. You know, if you're going to use it, use a spoon to scoop it out. And we could do a little experimenting on our own, would be one thing. Now, I'm a little confused where you're talking about the CBD coming from cannabis, because my understanding is that the products that are being sold over the counter around have to be hemp-based, and I don't know if that makes any difference or not. Did somebody else say something? No, I'm hearing.
I don't think they did. You know, the hemp plant is very similar to the cannabis plant, and so they both share a lot of the same constituents. So the question of whether it's hemp or cannabis, it becomes a very subtle kind of political question, because they were wanting to legalize hemp products and not legalize cannabis products. So it becomes a kind of a very subtle legal point.
Yeah. Now, I've bought stuff from several different sources. And one of the problems is, since it's not regulated, you don't even know if you're getting the same thing in the bottle that looks the same, because they're not marked, and it's very confusing. I sort of think I might try getting some from the dispensary. I have to go to the dispensary periodically for a friend of mine, because at least there's some kind of regulation there. And you've just explained it's state regulation. So I don't know if it's going to be more expensive when I get it there, but I do have access to that. And as I say, my gut tells me that might be a more reliable place to get it. So a friend of mine bought some from Katsaros recently at my suggestion. I actually have bought some stuff from there too. Again, thinking Katsaros, it may be careful about what they buy, but I don't know. But also they deliver. So if you're stuck at home and can't get out, and they also will do curbside pickup with Katsaros, which is a useful thing to know.
Good.
So, I pass those things on, and, I would propose if there are people interested, we talk informally at some point.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Oh, this goes back, and it's a little bit technical. You said that the Marinol is approved for glaucoma pain experience with glaucoma. Maybe that's a different kind of glaucoma than the one I have. It doesn't affect the pressure, the eye pressure, which then changes in that, destroy the nerve.
I might have gotten that wrong. It might be the pressure that it acts on.
Oh, okay. I didn't say I should say I'm Sarah Lawson, sorry.
Sarah, nice to meet you. You can look up Marinol in the PDR, and you'll find everything that you need to know there.
Thank you so much. It's nice to seeing your name everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all over campus, all over the psych department, where I spend a lot of time.
Yeah, we're looking for subjects.
Studies. Yeah. Look what they're doing now.
Has anyone else tried CBD products or have any other experiences with them for pain or any other uses?
How about you, Michelle? Have you tried it?
My sister gave me some bath salts a few years ago.
But now be careful about bath salts because it could mean something completely different, right?
Oh, right.
It can mean really.
This is
Okay.
yeah, I just used them in the bath.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think I was trying to get as many uses as I could, and I think therefore it was very dilute and
I see. Okay. Okay.
I
You know,
visited,
yeah, go ahead.
this
go
is
ahead.
Terry. I visited, this was before COVID. In middle February, I visited a friend of mine in the wine country in Northern California. And she and her husband grow marijuana.
Okay.
And telling her about my wrist. And she gave me some balm that she and her husband made from marijuana.
Oh.
But I've not used it because I wasn't sure what would happen and would I be addicted and would I see colors and whatever. So
Okay. You know
but
what?
now
It's really
I feel a little safer after listening to your conversation.
so the balm might contain both THC and CBD, and so the THC might make you feel a little bit different, but it's not going to make you addicted, and it's not going to make you see crazy things or anything like that. It's just going to make you feel a little sleepy or a little hungry, or its effects are very subtle, if it has any effects at all. But it's not, you don't have to worry about that.
And then of course the what do you call it? The psychological effect, the placebo effect probably has something to do with it too.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
If I believe it's going to work, it'll work.
There you go. Absolutely.
More or less.
Absolutely.
An experiment of one.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's a good idea. Do it.
I beg to I hate to differ with your professional because you have a lot more experience than me, but I would caution people if you're going to try something that has both, particularly something you're eating or inhaling or whatever, that has not a balm, that has some THC in it, because what I discovered accidentally is that as we get older, our body metabolizes things differently. And so if you try something with THC in it, it's going to it may have more of an effect on you than you expect. And this could be particularly problematic if you think, oh, well, I used to smoke marijuana all the time and it doesn't do anything to me. It might do something to you now. So be careful.
That's a really good point. It's a really good point. And also there's been a lot of interest in edibles these days, but together with the interest in edibles, there's also an escalation in the dose of THC that's available in the product. So the dose of THC has gone way up. It used to be, in my day, it was, or when I first started doing research, or when it was in maybe 2% was, the cannabis plant had 2% THC. And now it has something like 25%. So it's really potent. So if you take that in a brownie form, if you take more than if you don't really know what the dose is and you take it in a brownie form, then it's going to take its course. It's going to start having its effect. And you start feeling the effect and you think, well, this is way more than I bargained for. And there's no stopping it. You have to just wait through it. You just have to wait until it passes. Now, fortunately, it doesn't kill anybody, but it can make a long-lasting unpleasant experience. And so the problem with taking it orally, that is by mouth, then there's no turning it around. If you smoke something, then you take a little bit of a puff and you feel something and you think, okay, well, that's enough, no more, and then you don't take another puff. But when you eat the product, it's harder to control. So that is something to be watching out for if you're tempted to use the whole plant, the cannabis material, and then just be aware that the doses these days, in addition to the age factor, which I think is an important one, the doses are so much higher than we ever knew back in the 60s.
Yeah, and also if you're taking an edible, it doesn't kick in for a few hours. So you might take it and say, oh, this isn't doing shit. Oh, excuse my language. And take a little more.
Oh yeah,
and
double the
take,
bag.
and then 3 hours later, all of a sudden you don't know where you are and you're getting kind of concerned. So, don't do it when you're home alone.
I came in a little late and I'm confused about THD versus CBD or whatever the general term is you're using.
Okay, let me just say it. It's there's a plant, cannabis, that has hundreds of ingredients in it. The one that's known to be psychoactive and affects mood and anxiety and that gets you high is THC. It's called tetrahydrocannabinol. So that's THC.
That's THC. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the active one. And then the one that people often claim has a strong action, another action is CBD. So the claims are all that CBD somehow changes the response to THC, or that CBD alone does all kinds of things. And I pointed out that there's not very much evidence that CBD alone does very much. There's suggestive evidence, but not controlled studies, double-blind studies.
So
does that clarify?
Why is it such a well-used, or this talk was called?
Good question.
Know about CBDs or
what? So the question is, why has it become so popular? Well, one thing is that it's kind of related to cannabis, the plant cannabis, and so that draws people to it. And secondly, it doesn't have very many harmful effects, and so you can make claims, and so people, it's kind of well poised for a placebo effect.
Okay.
People expect that it's going to do something, and then actually it really doesn't do very much.
Okay, thanks.
Are there other parts of the cannabis plant that you as a researcher think might have some effects or might become popular like CBD?
There's people doing research on something called terpenes, which is another chemical in there, but I think the evidence, it's very subtle. The THC, this is more technical than you need to know, but first of all, you get the THC through the plant material, but then that gets broken down and it has metabolites. It gets broken down into other products that are themselves active as well. So, to be honest, I don't think, I'm not aware that there are really other strong active ingredients. Mm-hmm. People make claims about all different ones of them, but there's not very good evidence for it.
Yeah, I was wondering if we'd start to see all kinds of products. Right now everything is CBD. Will it be?
That could well happen. That could help. Somebody could come along and say, I found the important ingredient, and then that'll start out a whole new train of sales.
This is Terry Stumpf.
Yes.
Before we close out, and I'm not wanting to change the subject, but I do want to be sure and thank you for being here and on such short notice. Our original topic for today was supposed to be the Dean Maurice Charles from Rockefeller Chapel, and he was supposed to talk with us about some of the history of the chapel, but primarily community engagement. Well, he and I were in communication again over the weekend. On Sunday, he said, I'm just thinking, since the campus has been closed and no one's been allowed in the chapel, we've had little to no community engagement. So I'm not sure I have much to talk about.
Oh.
So we agreed with him. And
okay.
He has offered that once the campus reopens and we start having in-person activities again as a village, that he would invite us to Rockefeller Chapel, give us a tour, and then also engage in conversation about community engagement. So that's something to look forward to down the road. Who knows, October, November, hopefully before the snow hits us. But we do want to thank you, Harriet, for such a quick and engaging conversation with us. And now you have become ever well known amongst all of us.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you. You had good questions and good comments. And yeah, go and try it. I shouldn't say that.
And I think I'm okay to say this. I saw the sign that says recorded. So it'll be available on the website for people to download on their own if they want to hear it over again and or they missed today's event. And we had a record number of 28 people online today.
Good.
So not only was it a hot topic, but maybe a high topic too.
There you go. There you go. Very good. Very good. All right. It was a pleasure to meet you. It was really nice talking to you all. And,
Is it, wait,
So
what,
much, Harriet.
is it
Okay.
possible to stay on? Is
Thanks
it
so
possible
much.
to stay- is it possible to stay on a few minutes? So if there are people who want to continue some kind of discussion among themselves, we can figure out a way to do it.
That's okay. Sure, Robin.
Okay.
Yep.
you probably
Okay, so
don't need me.
Program is over, but if you guys want to talk about how to share product information, sure. Yes, thank you very much.
And how long can we stay on? Is it going to cut off in an hour, or we don't know? We don't know.
You can
Okay.
stay on 24 hours. No, I have a meeting at 3. 3 o'clock.
Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Sure.
That was
I'm
good.
good.
I'm gonna sign off. Are you gonna stay on, Terry?
I'm going to stay on, and
Okay.
by doing that, that doesn't mean I'm interested in being a subject.
Okay. So if you, Terry, if you sign off, you just need to make someone else a host
Okay,
So they can close
so
their
they
room.
can end the meeting
Right.
because you're.
how do I do that?
Just in the participant list, you would click on more. Here, I'll make Robin a co-host.
Oh,
How about
okay. Oh, there you go.
There you
Responsibility.
go. So Robin,
I don't know what to do as a co-host.
Don't worry.
just click end in the bottom right corner of your screen when
Okay.
when you're done. That's all.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So who's on? I don't have a way to see who's on. So
Terry's here. Ken Gustafson's here. Seal Lutheran's here. Gloria's here. Josie Disterhoff and Taylor Gibson.
okay.
I'm leaving, and I just wanted to add that I didn't inhale.
That was a good one. Bill Clinton didn't either.
Okay. I mean, I think that a lot of people find the CBD cream or there's another method of doing it very helpful. And in answer to the question that was asked towards the end, why is there so much hype about this if it's not proven? You know, it's marketing. You know, well, partly it's lots of marketing. You know, it's a lucrative industry, and if people think that, you know, obviously lots of people are buying it, but I don't think so many people would be buying it if it didn't do something for them.
Right. But Robin,
so,
let me
yeah.
say something else too. Being a person who's had chronic diseases over, you know, my lifetime that are very painful, the issue is the class of pain-killing drugs, there's not many, you know, there
Right.
really isn't. I mean, Tylenol, naproxen, I take handfuls. Okay, don't, you know, not really, because that'd be horrible, but, and then you just jump to opioids, narcotics. God damn it. Oh, excuse me. There's somebody at the door, my little helper, but for just a few minutes, I'll come back. I've got the sound on.
Come back, and I want to give you my phone number so we can talk on the phone if you
Okay,
can't get
all right.
back. Okay, so be sure to come back.
And just to note that I think it was in the first week, the state of Illinois collected $2 million of taxes.
Yeah, so the state's behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
As did Colorado find that they made a mint.
Yeah, yeah. The stuff at the very beginning, the first time I went to the dispensary, a friend drove me in exchange for my, giving him something. And when he saw how expensive it was, he said, this is somebody who had been a heavy smoker of marijuana for many, many, many years. And he said, this is too expensive. I don't want any more of this. I'm fine with what I've got. Forget it. And then, 2 weeks later, he says to me, when are you going again? I said, I thought you said it was too expensive. And he said, yeah, but it's good. And he's got Crohn's, that person has Crohn's disease. He went and got a card. I mean, this is somebody who the people who can get the medical marijuana cards, those have been, there have been studies, it's been documented, and you can't get it, if you get a medical marijuana card, then you have something that marijuana is known to help. But they haven't done the studies at all on CBD, and it's terrific that they're doing them. And then as they get done, maybe there'll be a better regulated industry, so people will know more. But in the meanwhile, the only thing to do is to try it and see if it helps for you. And Terry said, if it's the placebo effect, who cares? If it helps, it helps, right?
Now, Robin, I have a question. You mentioned
Wait, hold 1 minute. I got to get plugged in. My battery's dying. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Where is a dispensary near us or in the city?
Well, they keep opening new ones, so I don't know the closest ones. The two that were the closest both got hit and got looted and got closed for a while. I think it depends whether you're going by car or not, but and where else you might go. So I picked one that was also not too far from Costco, so I could do a dispensary run and a Costco run at the same time. And that one, the name of it is THC, and it's at I think 1301 Southwestern. And it takes us about 20 minutes to get there if there's no traffic. There's also one on Archer. A friend of mine went there and said it did not look very appealing, and he chose not to go in. There's one way south of us, like maybe around, it's in the 90s east, in the east side area. Maybe, I don't know if it's on Exchange or, no, I think it's on Commercial, maybe 95th and Commercial. That's probably, as the crow flies, the closest, but the driving time is probably not that different. I'm thinking of transferring and going to one that's on North Avenue, just east of the expressway. So you can hit that and Home Depot at the same time. And the reason that I want to switch to that one is they will give me curbside, because I've got multiple conditions. I'm in a very high risk category, and I don't go into stores. And so far, they're the only ones I've found. I haven't called that many places, but I was calling around. They're willing to do, we get the order in and they'll bring it out to me. And that, to me, is very valuable. And again, if there's no traffic, it's 20 minutes.
Which one is it, Robin?
That one is at North Avenue, just east of the expressway.
Yeah, do you know the name of it?
I don't remember the name, but if you want to wait, I can look for it, or while people are talking about, I could try to look for it.
That's okay.
But I mean, there's a site. If you look, if you Google Chicago area dispensaries, it'll give you a map, and you can find it. And I think the address is It's on, well, I don't remember the address. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say 1301 West North Avenue, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I said east or west. It's east of the expressway.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I can't find things that way. So.
Okay. Well, it's at the end.
Okay.
I'll look it up and I can give you the number. The other thing I'd be willing to do, well, I have to see if they're willing to do it. All right. At the dispensary that I've been going to, they have two separate lines. One for the people with the medical card, which is the line that I go through, and it's
right.
You know, and then if they will allow me to also buy stuff that's not in their medical category. I mean, it gets taxed differently. The medical and the recreational get dealt with differently. And there's a limit to how much medical I can buy at one time. And it would be illegal for me to buy it and, you know, dispense it in some other way. If I'm able to buy as much recreational, like if I'm gonna buy some cream for myself to try it, because I've been using creams that I've gotten in other places, and I want to see. I want to try it from the dispensary.
Okay,
I could buy some extra cream, and I could just give you a little bit to try.
This is, you know, important
initially. So that's another thing we could do.
Robin,
Yeah.
you mentioned when you go to the dispensary, there's two lines. One with the medical card and the other is for recreational.
Right.
The products that you get on the recreational, is it the same quality and product as you would get in the medical line?
Well, the only thing I've bought, I've never bought pure CBD before. In the past, I've just been buying from my friend, and he gets he gets a mix of CBD. He gets a product that has CBD and THC both. And those are the exact identical products, yes. As far as I don't know with the stuff that's just the CBD. I'm assuming it's the same product for both. But I don't know that for a fact. It's something I can ask when I'm out there.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
This is still being recorded, I believe, so you don't need to continue to record it.
Okay.
Oh, let me see.
Okay, let's stop that. That's a nice idea.
Yeah, I don't know